4 reasons why self-help is keeping you stuck in life. Now, this might be a controversial take, but hear me out. I've been into self-help and personal development for a long time, and I do see its value. However, I've also seen how self-help can be an illusion and how it can be completely unnecessary in many cases for your own growth and transformation. Now, this took me a long time to realize, but I eventually had this insight where I saw clearly that the self that I was trying to help was not going to help me because it was the very root of my problem. How can a flawed self help itself if it is flawed? Think about that. This is something you really have to contemplate and spend a lot of time with, but you have to realize that most people, even people with the best intentions, spend their whole lives trying to help themselves, trying to be happy, trying to be at peace, and they're still unhappy after a lifetime of struggling to be happy. It's because the self you're trying to help, the self you're trying to make happy, is your ego. And your ego is the problem, it's the obstacle, it's not the solution. Now, sure, we can get outside help and we can create a healthier ego, a healthier mind, but we must realize that the whole foundation of our ego is built on one belief, and that is the belief that we are not enough. It's the belief in lack. It's the belief that we don't have enough, and therefore we need to search outside of ourselves and gather more, whatever, money, more information, more knowledge. We need better relationships. We need something outside of ourselves to come into ourselves to make ourselves whole and complete. And there is a limitation to that sort of thinking. It'll only take you so far. You will never feel completely confident and at peace about anything if you're approaching it in that way, because the whole foundation, again, of the ego is built on the belief in lack. And so no matter how much you acquire in life, no matter how much knowledge, wisdom you have, no matter how much success you have, no matter how great your relationships are, if you're still operating from the ego, you will still feel like you're not enough. You will still feel like you need more. You will never feel complete. You will never feel totally at peace. And that is the goal in the end anyway. Why are you even into self-help in the first place? Probably because you want to be confident and at peace. But I think it's important to realize that you will never get that from your ego. Your ego lives in uncertainty. And if the ego is always uncertain, if it's never going to be completely at peace, we have to ask ourselves, well, where can we look? If not to the ego, where can we look for a sense of peace, for a sense of certainty? That's an important question to ask ourselves. So what you really want deep down is to be free of the ego's constant feelings of lack. The only way to do this is to get in touch with our soul, the part of ourselves that is beyond the ego, that is already perfect, whole, and complete, and lacking nothing. The part of ourselves that is always at peace, that is always certain, that doesn't have doubt or fear. There is a part of you that is like that. But if you're always living in your mind, always living in your ego, always thinking about the future and the past, and your mind is never still and calm and silent, then you're never going to realize that about yourself. Only when you get in touch with that part of yourself will you realize that self-help is totally an illusion and it's totally unnecessary. Because when you're tapped into that part of yourself, there is nothing you need. You're totally fulfilled in that moment. You're totally at peace. So at some point, we have to go beyond self-help and realize that there's a higher level of understanding that will actually give us what we really want and will help us escape this hamster wheel of always striving for something, always wanting but never having. Another thing you might want to ask yourself is, does nature need help? If you look at nature, nature operates effortlessly. Nature would destroy us before we could destroy nature. Like, even if we wiped everything out, it would eventually rebound and flourish again because that's just what it's designed to do. It just does that automatically. We have to realize that we are part of nature. We are nature itself. We are one with nature. We're not separate from it. And so we are also designed to flourish naturally. And the only thing we have to do really is get out of our own way and allow that to happen instead of trying to force our will on everything and exert all this effort in order to change and become someone who we think we need to be. We need to get out of our own way, surrender, let go, get in touch with that part of ourselves that is already fulfilled and at peace, and then we can flourish in our lives without all the effort, without all the stress, without all the never feeling good enough. We can let the universe work through us, and we can live with faith and trust. And that's a very hard thing for the ego to do, because the ego thinks that it needs to control everything. It thinks that I won't get what I want unless I try to control everything and manipulate reality in my favor. That's what it believes. So this boils down to sort of a lack of faith and trust in life. The real problem is that we don't listen to our own intuition about what to do. We're trying to think so many steps ahead. We're trying to anticipate the future because that's how we attempt to control it, because we think if we don't control it, then it's not going to happen the way we want it to. But really, we all have an intuition. And if we were to just quiet our mind and listen to that intuition, we would know what to do. We wouldn't have to anticipate so much. We wouldn't have to think 10 steps ahead. We could just focus on the step right in front of us, and we could live with trust and faith that things would work out and we would be led in the proper direction. When we live with a quiet mind, we start to realize that help comes not from our own ego, but it comes from something much greater than ourselves. There is a universal wisdom, you might say, that we all have access to, but few people hear that wisdom. Few people hear that call. Few people know what to do in their lives because they're listening to their ego, not that universal wisdom. So my premise is self-surrender over self-help. You are your own biggest enemy. And so the answer to your problems lies in your willingness to surrender your ego. The ego is the obstacle. It's not the answer. Most people will have to struggle a lot in their life before they come to this realization that they're hopelessly trapped in the maze of their own mind and that there's no way out except through surrender and letting go and having humility and trust and faith. So how do we actually get out of our own way? One is what I call perception cleansing. It's the process of training your mind to see without the filter of the past or the distraction of the future. It's training your mind to see reality more clearly so you stop repeating the same mistakes. Because whenever we see reality through the filter of what has happened to us, through the filter of our own beliefs and the beliefs that were shaped through our own experiences in life, then we're just going to keep making the same decisions and keep recreating the past in the future. The future is going to look like our past because we're perceiving reality through the filter of our past. So we're just going to keep getting more of the same thing. And so when we can be free from the past and free from the future, we can see things as they truly are. And that is when we can make the absolute best decisions for ourselves possible. And 2, practice effortless action. This is learning to remove the resistance to action so you can be effective in the world, because we live in this world, this material world. There's things we have to do in this world. We have obligations and responsibilities. So we need to know how to take action, but we need to do it without sacrificing our peace. That's the ideal scenario. We can move through the world. We can do what we need to do. We can make money, take care of our family, whatever. But we can do it in a state of peace because we're living in the present. If this sounds like a skill you're interested in developing, then I do have a challenge. It's called the Effortless Action Challenge. It should be linked below, or you can go to effortlessactionchallenge.com. In that challenge, I'll take you through a mind training process to teach you how to take effortless action, how to get out of your own way so you can accomplish more in your life, but do it with a sense of ease and grace. And I'll also help you get clear on the actions you do need to take in order to achieve your specific goals in life. That's all for this video. If you've made it this far, just please give the video a thumbs up before you go. I'd really appreciate that. And I'll talk to you in the next one. Peace.